a long way. So I always tell my patients, I'm going to suggest to you some small changes, but they are permanent changes. Permanent. They're not temporary, just for the week or for the day, but if you change diet for the better, and that should be a small change in your regular diet take, but then that can be permanent. For example, you are overloading on carbohydrates and all your food is all processed diet, then change that, reduce that amount, and that should be a permanent change. It's not like a few days I will eat better and then later on I will indulge in that. That is the danger people fall into, you know. So very small changes, like suppose you are sitting at the desk, I tell them, okay, every 10-15 minutes, whenever you want to make a phone call, stand up and then make the call. That's a small change. And also walk around maybe so often, like every hour or something. So we cannot tell them sitting is the new smoking. So it's as bad as that. But then this prolonged sitting, because we are working with the computers, we are working with all these devices. We will sit down sometimes to document EMR and all that, right? So I tell them just get up and do these stretches for the neck and the back and also to the side. If you can do all way movement for a while, that is good enough. That's a small change, but you have to do it every day, like a habit. Suppose you go dancing, very good. You move your body always. That should be the way you can have a lot of exercise too. Suppose you go walking out just to take a break, or walk in the corridor that way and this way a couple of times. That is a small change, but then that could be permanent change. So, welcome Joyce, welcome Almain. If you have anything to contribute or you have any questions, please come up and I will be happy to give the floor to you. And then we go from there. So, Almain wants to come up. So,
Hello, Dr. Rao. Thank you for having me up on stage.
yeah,
I'm not a doctor myself, but I work in the healthcare as an editor of a journal, a magazine for health professionals,
yeah,
mostly those working in eye health, ophthalmology, doctors and nurses, and mostly in low and middle income countries worldwide.
yeah,
And so I'd be really interested in your tips for how to kind of decompress. When you have, like I've just had an editorial committee meeting, which was, I had to run a meeting for 2 hours, sitting still,
yeah,
and I feel so frazzled now and exhausted.
yeah,
So what would be your tips for quick
yeah.
recovery, taking a break?
Yeah, I go.
Your idea of dancing sounds good. I'm currently sitting in my hammock in the garden, swinging.
That's okay.
And
Hammock
having
can
that
be.
physical compression and listening to you,
Yeah.
which is really kind of helping soothe my brain. But any other tips would be
Yeah.
so welcome, and tips I could share with our readers as well. That'd
Yeah,
be great.
hammock itself is good for your body, but we'll come to that later. But I go through the same thing that you are talking about in the meetings, because lots of times they want me to participate in the meeting because of the experience, because of the various policies that I was involved in, all that, right? So I usually let them speak to me and tell me what is that they are talking about, what is the crux of the meeting, what is that they want to discuss, and what would they like to take home to, that kind of thing, right? So I listen with the active listening mode. That means I'm not sleeping somewhere, but I'm actually getting what they're talking about and what is it that is important here. Like a active listening, really paying attention to what they mean, what is that they want, what is their ultimate motive, that kind of thing, right? So what I do when I'm listening, I kind of plant my feet on the floor. I'm still sitting in there, right? And then I can just lift up my toes and then come back and we lift up the heels, right? That's a simple exercise. Look at 10 times I can do, or 20 times, so that according to what it is. So I am actively engaging my body in some way when I'm listening to them too. That takes away what do we call tamas, let's say inertia, that accumulates because of we are sitting, because sitting and not moving is not natural to the human body. Moving is natural, moving is good for them. So I always keep it in mind. That's why I like to do variations of these kind of things whenever I'm there. Suppose I'm kind of standing and speaking, I move that way in this way. So when you see your turn, then you can get up and move a little bit, and then as you are moving, you can talk. That's a simple thing that we can do. And then I also do another thing which really helps me is I kind of deep breathe as I'm listening to them. If I'm not doing any minor exercise, like I told you, what I do is I just deep breathe. That deep breathing really helps us a lot. First of all, it kind of puts us in the parasympathetic mode, which is good for us to not to respond like a sympathetically, actually angrily like that, right? You want to not react but respond to things. That helps quite a lot, the deep breathing. And then when I'm really speaking and all of that, like I told you, we're not only moving but also really engaging people, like because the test is, if I listen to them carefully, that I know each speaker what their point is, what they were concentrating, what they were trying to convey, what their doubts are. So it becomes a habit and you observe that. Then you are going to address their point. Then they know that I was listening to them and also I'm responding to them. So these are some of the simple things that you could do, Alvin. How do they sound?
Yeah, I really like that. And actually, the way I was running this meeting,
Yeah.
I'm so glad you said all of those things. I've never thought about moving my feet during the
Yeah.
meeting, so I will definitely try that next time.
Yeah.
Because I agree with you. I'm made to move. I don't like sitting still. It doesn't come naturally at all.
Yeah.
But I think what I did do, and I think it was helpful because I was reading the meeting. I was able to be really present, and I was taking notes. So we were on Zoom, and I shared my screen, and as people were speaking, I was summarizing and I can type. Luckily, I can type super fast. So I was summarizing and putting their bullet points of what they were saying
Good.
on the
Yes.
screen, and
Yeah.
emphasizing and hearing them and feeding back to them what they were saying.
Yeah.
And actually, I think with practice, this meeting also, because since our last meeting, I've been on Clubhouse and learning so much about my parasympathetic nervous system and about being present.
Yeah.
And what I noticed, and actually interestingly enough, specifically with my colleague who is
You're cut off. Yeah.
I just had to stop a call for a second,
Yeah.
who's in Hyderabad, that because I was connecting from the heart in that parasympathetic system and not getting upset and not in sympathetic,
Yeah.
that people felt safe. And I've noticed colleagues who always have been quite reticent were opening up and sharing what was deeply meaningful to them, and their enthusiasm was palpable.
Yeah.
And I felt like we made emotional progress. I mean, it's a bunch of doctors. I'm a journalist originally and an editor.
Yeah.
And a bunch of doctors and academics who don't often work with their heart, they mainly work with their heads.
Yeah.
And I was able to just really resonate with them and feel what is important.
Yeah.
And that was very special. I would say that was actually a very special experience.
Yeah.
And thank you for this opportunity to reflect and share that.
Yeah.
It's good to remember that.
That intellect you are talking about with the mind, the heart, that's the crux of it. In yoga, what it is how do you make your mind establish in the heart? Okay, so then you will be coming from that rather than trying to argue or trying to force your views on somebody else and all that. When you come through the heart, the mind is kind of established there, so you will not have this intellectual chatter to interfere with your listening. So you are listening with the heart rather than the active mind in that sense. That's a deeper principle. But basically, what happens then is whatever you do is like an act of giving from the heart, you know, and then the mind becomes really an instrument that you use to listen carefully and to understand carefully and to also come and meet them at where they are coming from rather than preaching you should be like this. You kind of are empathetic to that position, not because you just want to butter them, but because you just want to understand where they are coming from. Like a child is not able to get up and walk, you will accept the crawling. Then he takes a small steps, you accept that. Like people also can be childlike to mature in their understanding of life. You know, basically, my philosophy is this: it's not about pursuing the selfish desires the life is. It is about what can we contribute to the life and the welfare of others. Right, Alvin?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. That is just so spot on, and I think that's where I'm arriving at in my own, I suppose,
Yeah.
spiritual development and my own. I feel like I'm already 47, but I feel like I'm now only approaching what
Yeah.
I would call adulthood or maturity,
Don't worry, you
which
are
is
very young compared to me. Compared to me, you are very young, Alvin. I'm 69, so you are very young.
so I'm still a baby, yeah. But yeah, I feel like this is for me. This is what it means to become a mature human being.
Yeah.
Is where you're not so concerned about what you can get out of life because I'm already over halfway, I
Yeah.
guess,
Yeah.
and so I'm thinking about
No,
how can I
your
contribute,
your
how can I enjoy.
your profession, Alvin, as a journalist, is half of that, isn't it? You don't think of only yourself. You want to okay, find out what's happening in the life. What is that I could really report and correct things? That is part of your job, right? So, as a journalist, you kind of blessed about your work, and then that should be easier for you.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think it's always been my calling
Yeah, yeah,
to educate and to share knowledge to
yeah,
improve lives and so on. So yes, I am very blessed to work in an area where I can be in a place of giving. So yeah, I'm really really lucky. Thank you so much.
yeah.
So Dr. Rao, just so I've really appreciated um, I've really appreciated your tips on how to handle meetings during the time. But even when I'm doing that, when I'm a little bit exhausted afterwards and I need to
Yeah,
take a break, I'm just imagining also doctors when
yeah.
they're very busy and then they have like a short break, 15 minutes or half an hour. What is a good way to slow down or to just
Yeah,
refresh
I'll
in
share
that
with you
time?
what I do, Elman. That makes more sense probably. See, in the morning when I get up, I don't open up the devices right away, because there are safeguards, right? People can send it to the chat bot or any of number of things I have. They help me, but basically, I don't expose my mind to all the things that are coming up that may not be important. Just delay them. Maybe a few minutes also is better. The idea is don't get on the stream of thought. That is the train of thought, thought after thought. Don't get activated, but just be in the present, in the awareness. Okay, that's what I do in the morning. I have a wellness club too, so that means I kind of run a yoga class where this is emphasized. It's an hour of exercise in awareness, being in the present, aligning yourself to what we are doing, and all that, right? So once that is cultivated in the morning, you can continue to be in the present through the day. Suppose you are really involved in some intellectual discussions and all that, and then your stimulative thoughts go all over, that's fine. But then remember to take a break at least for a minute every hour. That's what I prescribe to my doctors who are burnout and all that, right? So through the day, you spend like that, coming back to the presence again and again. And in the night, that is very important element. Before you go to bed, okay, just to shut off the devices at least half an hour before you go to bed. During the half an hour, unwind yourself, not only physically but also mentally. So how you do it is just run reverse gear. What happened at 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 7 p.m., 6 p.m., like that, all the way to the morning, and review all those things happened to you that day, and especially your emotional reactions to whatever going on, right? And then you just dump them, all the trivialities, dump them completely. Important ones, write it on a paper or on a device, and then forget for the night. Just do that day after day. This one, eventually you will get used to dump them as they're happening. That's what I do. as
Ah,
thing, then it will be very clear mind.
I really like that. I
Yeah.
love that. I'm just going to summarize it back to you. So, in the morning, because I know exactly what you mean. I've sensed that, you wake up and it's like the pool is calm, there's no ripples on the pool.
Yeah.
And then the moment you have a thought or you pick up your device, you listen to the news, it sets off the waves and it's, the surface is no longer clear.
Yeah.
So just kind of maximize those moments.
Yeah. Remember this word,
Enjoy them.
Alvin, remember this word, conscious thought. Even when you are working, think consciously what you want to focus on, what is meaningful to you, what is important for you. Think actively, consciously that. Don't let all the unconscious things that are not related to the activity come and crowd you. You see that word
Yes.
conscious thought, consciously thinking.
And that's almost, and I suppose it's thinking intentionally. I've never understood when people always talk about setting an intention and stuff.
Yeah.
But when I was having trouble at work, a friend of mine who's also a coach, he said, okay, you've got these problems, but think about what would you like to happen? How would you like the meeting to go? What is your kind of intention? And then you can act with some sort of
Yeah.
idea in mind. And that's, I think, what you mean about conscious
Let me
thought.
explain. It's a little different. Okay. If you are intentionally thinking, there again there is a intentioner. There is somebody who is intending. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about consciously thinking means in this moment, here and now, am I here or am I bringing some other element? Even the intention also can be element, right? You can have purpose and all that, but then when you are really thinking, if you allow your consciousness come forward, that means if your awareness come forward than the thinking, you are much more clear about things. Like I'm talking to you, for example, if my intention is to influence you, if my intention is to make you my follower, or my intention is to get some praise, then I'm not doing conscious thought. My conscious thought is I have to contribute to the larger good of the life, and that's why I'm trying to share the practices that I do, the understandings that I do, with the hope that somebody may pick it up. So there is no personal pressure on Almain, but like respecting her as a fellow human being, sharing something, and her intelligence is good enough to take it up. You see,
Yes. Yes, I
my
see. So it's sort of like it's a deeper, it's almost an orientation, I would say,
yeah,
rather than an intention. My orientation is
yeah,
towards being present and centered in that love and
yeah,
kind of
exactly.
caring and service
Yeah.
for the greater good kind of
See,
thing. And it's that when I say that, that feels very calm. I feel very centered, and I
yeah,
feel that life is flowing through me rather than it's me putting all
exactly,
this effort and getting tired. It's just a
exactly.
very centered, calm
Yeah,
space. So in that and cultivating that, I can see how that would prevent the burnout.
yeah,
And I loved what you said about starting your day in that calm way,
yeah,
creating space for that, and then every hour
yeah,
creating, having a minute or 5 minutes to just recenter,
yeah,
dip your toe in that water, like reaching out to the warm current
yeah.
underneath.
I have a name for that. It's called PMBB, present moment breathing break. While you stop and get into presence and then taking the deep breath, the deep breath itself can arrest the thoughts and then bring you to the present moment. So do that for a minute, deep breathing with this kind of orientation and awareness. Then you will get back to your real self, and the movement of thought will not be there unnecessarily. And that's a very, very rewarding thing. The other thing I want to tell you is when we are talking about intention and all that, what we are trying to do is put the ego aside and then come with the life. Like you mentioned, the self within, the love within, that flows through, and that will tell you what is right. See that we don't know how we build the ego very, very small every day, and then we are just get into the ego aside, and then you come back. Make sense, Elvin?
Yes. Yeah, no, it absolutely does. It absolutely does. And
Yeah.
Can I
it's
speak?
versatile.
Just give us a moment, love. If Elvin is done, then you will be called upon. Okay? Yeah.
It's Love Nasur.
Yeah, Lavna, sir. Okay, Elvin, are you done or you have any other comments or questions?
I am done and I am at peace.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. Much appreciated. Thank
Sure,
you.
sure. A pleasure to meet you. Okay. Okay, okay, Lavna, sure. What are you want to say? Lavna, sure.
Yes, yes. I'm
Yeah.
here. I'm here.
Go ahead and yeah, floor is
I've
yours.
been listening to you. I have been listening to you, and the kind of things that you're saying are not probable, are impossible.
Okay.
Uh, are you a medical MBBS doctor, sir?
Yes.
I'm just
Yeah.
okay. MBBS?
I'm an MD in United States.
No, no, I'm not asking that. Your MBBS plus FRHC, anything
Yeah, yeah. I was
nephrology
MBBS in
or
India. I
what is
came.
your specialization?
Yeah.
Nephrology?
No, no. I came from
Sorry.
India, and then I'm a internal medicine doctor in United States.
Since your name is Rao, I think you're Telugu. You're from Andhra Pradesh, I
Why
think so.
is that all relevant here? I don't understand. We are talking about burnout of doctors. It's not about me. It is about the burnout I want to talk about.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. I'm just assuming. Yeah. Sorry if I said something wrong. I'm sorry. So you're in the United States
Yeah.
and you're a doctor, MBBS. Yeah. And since you studied medicine so well, I would think that you should not talk about philosophy or anything else other than that. You
What
should stick to
authority?
medicine.
What authority gives you that you should tell me what I should do or should not do?
No, absolutely not. Democratic. You can talk whatever you want, sir. Please, absolutely. You can do whatever you want.
Actually, I
Nothing.
value my philosophy, my understanding of the ancient wisdom, knowledgeable spirituality much more than the modern scientific medicine, which is limited, which has its own strengths and weaknesses too. So that is one of the reasons why a lot of doctors are burning out because they don't understand the treasure of wealth we have in every culture. There is a ancient wisdom, and if they tap into that, it doesn't matter which country you are, it is there. So yeah.
Sir, I'll tell you a very real truth.
Yeah, that's irrelevant and also unnecessary. So I'm going to move on to the other person, other people who wants to contribute to this talk rather than really disturb us. So it's a kind of trying to really contribute to the good of the doctors as a whole who really are suffering with the burnout, and really suffering because they are what is called scientificism. That means whatever thought has seen from objective data as the ultimate thing. But this ancient wisdom is about inner truths that we could see about human nature, understand ourselves better, and then use our instruments of mind and body much better. So he can have his own opinions, but he has no business telling us what we should be doing. I'm just sharing some wisdom of the ancients that helped me to perform better as a doctor and as a human being too. So I'm here just to share. Like Almain had a lot of things that she wanted to learn, and she was uh, listening. And then I don't want them to follow right away, but I want them to question that and go and find for themselves if it is truth or not. I think she's a journalist and she has done a lot of the kind of investigation into the truth, and she is intelligent enough to understand what is what. So this room is about providing some practical daily solutions to the doctors who are burning out or the nurses who are burning out. And actually, it's not just a word. I can see the suffering that they are going through. They have put so many years of work to become a doctor, and when they have come, that is taken over by the middleman, the insurance people, the drug companies, the administrators, and all that. Now the doctors are demoralized because they are not given the resources to serve their patients better. You know, that's what I'm seeing here happening, because general public also are not aware of what is going on. But there may be a situation where more doctors are going to burn out, and then they are not able to really perform to provide the care that we need. We need some of this person. Even the AI may displace a lot of doctors, but still there will be some doctors needed to really interpret the care, to really make sure that is safe and not just mechanically provided and all that. So I kind of embrace artificial intelligence. I use it in so many things now, which has helped me to really save time from the mundane or drudgery things, and I have more time now to really spend spiritually. See? So I'm glad about that. So there's nothing wrong with the technology. Who is using it, how they are using it, what that is important. EMR also I kind of embraced. So I was far ahead of my colleagues in putting my time into it, learning it. It was painful in the beginning, but then I was at it. The yoga gives me that tenacity to be with any task when you are attempting to learn in the beginning, right? So I learned EMR. I was ahead. I learned more by teaching other people too. So I mastered this to a degree where I can do all my charting very quickly, very nicely using the EMR features, all features, right? I use the EMR on the floor and EMR right in the clinic, and remote on my iPad, on my iPhone. I use them first before anybody else in my hospital, for example. So that kind of using the remote, and also on the cows, we call it a computer on wheels, right? And that kind of adoption and understanding all that is available, and then really making our job easier than fighting the EMR and then getting stressed out. That's one of the major reasons doctors are burning out, because they are fighting the EMR implementation and not really being able to use it well. Okay? So all these are facts. All these are things are going on. That's why I want to bring them out, and I want to provide them some of the solutions that I found for myself, and I want to share that. Okay. So with that, I think Chris wants to come up. Let me see. Hi, Chris. How are you?
Hey, good morning, everybody. You having some great. I wanted to share. I guess I know a lot of the hospitals and stuff. They have a nutrition department. I'm sure. But anyway, 20 years ago, me and a guy here locally he had just retired from the hospital, the major hospital here. He was in the nutrition department, and me and him met for breakfast, and we was talking. We were sharing about nutrition.
Yeah.
And he verbatim told me just like this. He said, "Chris, everything you sharing with me is on point."
Yeah.
And he said, "I believe in everything what you're sharing." But he said, "We went to the head of the." He said, "My group went to the head of the hospital, and we tried to get funding to go out to schools, neighborhoods, churches to educate people. And you know what the head of the hospital told them? We're not in that business."
We are in that business. We should be. Yeah. I know what.
And this guy makes $50,000 a month, and he's supposed to be and got all these people in the hospital. He's the overseer, the president of the hospital, whatever you want to call him. But he wasn't interested in going out and healing people.
Yeah.
Explain that to me.
Well, nutrition is very important in the ancient times, like Ayurveda. They used food as medicine, And that is so true too, because a lot of ignorance on the nutrition. Actually, as doctors, when are trained, we are not trained that much on nutrition. But when I looked at the ancient system, they gave a lot of importance to the nutrition. So modern medicine has switched. Now we have nutritionists, we have dietitians to help with the patient's diet and all that. That is there. They think doctor's job is not to explain the nutrition, and they should use the dietitian nutritionist. I use them, but also I take my own personal time with my patient's diet and tell them not only modern findings but also ancient. There is a new science that is coming up, which I'm very familiar with. It's called nutrogenomics. That means your genes influence the diet that you have to take, and also your diet goes and influences the genes that you have. So that's a very early science that will be taught to the doctors, I believe. And more doctors are getting involved in their own diet and also in their own patient's diet and all that. But sometimes they may have only little time just to diagnose the patient and deal with all the consultants reports and things like that. But I believe this should be really the case. The nutrition also has to be a fundamental pillar of wellness. I kind of talk about four pillars. First pillar is nutrition, second is activity, third is sleep, fourth is calming the mind. So all are equally important, but nutrition starts fundamentally. And according to the bioenergies in the nutrition, your bioenergies are influenced. Suppose you eat a very heavy diet, you become inertia. Suppose you eat things like chilies, onions, a diet that is rich in rajas, then you will be very active in your mind. You will be running all the time. But you should have a balance. That's the energy that we want to promote. There are specific diets that if you eat, like a greens, like a fruits and vegetables, and then if at all you are eating meat, lean meat, fish, things like that, they will promote this balancing of the diets. So nutrition is very important. I agree, but this is about burning of doctors. I advise them when they consult me. If they consult me, one of the pillars is the nutrition. So take your time, at least few minutes, and then sit down and eat, and also savor your food, and also spend some time of what you are eating. What is the content you are eating, and also be thankful for that food, and be thankful for the people who made that food possible for you, and also just be happy that you are able to enjoy the food. You don't have to really suffer with addictions like too much of carbohydrates or too much of sugar and all that. So all that comes from the mind again. So you have to understand what is the good diet, what you have to place in your stress and all that. And a lot of these hospital administrators, they view that as a very little part of it because they are ignorant of the importance of the nutrition aspect of it and how it can prevent disease. But their business is how do we treat the illness people. They are not focused on the wellness as much as they should. So that's what's happening, Chris. Let's see, somebody else wants to come up. Let me invite them. Hi there, Lou.
Oh, hi. I'm sorry, I couldn't on mic. Hi, Dr.
How are you, Lou?
I have a specific question
Yeah.
if you have any suggestion
Sure.
about nutrition in case of autoimmune diseases. I have been studying and reading quite a bit about it. I know there are some foods you should avoid and others you should consume more.
Yeah.
As you know much better than me, autoimmune diseases are very difficult to treat. At
Yeah.
this point in time, there is no cure.
Exactly.
It's just treating the symptoms and avoiding that the disease worsen up.
Yeah.
So, but I do know the importance of nutrition in an autoimmune disease. In autoimmune disease, very important. So much that with certain kind of autoimmune diseases,
Exactly.
you cannot stop the disease, but you can slow it down so much that the flare ups will be so reduced
Yeah.
that you will live like a, let's say, a decent take
Yeah.
on this.
Yeah, I think that's a very important, relevant question, Lo. I will answer several levels, but then the nutrition comes. Autoimmune, by definition, we are developing antibodies to ourselves, our immune system, right? That's why they act on our body and then they damage us, instead of protecting us. To do that, a lot of it is about removing the ego and then influencing the molecular and biological, neurological complexes that we have inside. So, start with organically grown diet. That means most of the toxins of the fertilizers or insecticides or antibiotics, all those things are try to avoid them by growing organically. That means you can have a compost fertilizer rather than chemical fertilizer. It's a simple thing I suggest to my patients is just dig a big ditch and then put all the leaves and waste everything in there and cover it up for a few months. And that also a very rich fertilizer compost. Then you can use that to grow your own vegetables and fruits in the house. There are so many new methods too with less water and all of that. Tea towers and all that there. I was working with some other person of my community and she was telling me all these things too. So there are ways to grow our own organic food. If not possible, then go to genuine farmers who are really using organic methods to do that. That's one thing we can do, right? The other thing is cultivate the circadian rhythms in your body, which is natural. That means you eat only when you are hungry and you let the body work on them. And then when it is ready, it will expel all the waste products and then the cycle starts. But what we did is we continuously eat, kind of kill that circadian rhythm. So use the body's own circadian rhythm, which are natural, which are protective for you, so that you are really in tune with the nature. That's a very important thing too. And at the mind level, if you can really avoid the egoic thinking and saying that I am suffering, I am the ones, that can be really separated. And at the molecular neurological level, you are not going to influence your healing with a negative thinking. With your self will, you can cultivate your positive mentality. And then there are some cases where you can mobilize good leukocytes and good hormones just by positively oriented thinking. Those are three things I would say. Just to eat organically grown food, and also just try to be in the rhythms of life, circadian rhythms. And also at the mind level, calm yourself. If at all you cannot calm completely, then be positive, and that way you will be able to influence the chemical reactions a little bit. There is a science called psychoneuroimmunology. What it is your psychological conditions, your neurological conditions influence your immunity. In autoimmune disorders, a lot of times people are pretty negative or pretty despondent. So this science has evolved where happier thinking, happier states have produced actual peptides that we could isolate that are pretty healthy for us. So those are the things I would recommend. Make sense?
Yes, thank you so much, Soraya. It makes a lot of sense. I have one last question. Um, Oh well, I lost my train. So I was thinking what you just said. The last question is: are there any supplements that can help you to, let's say, well, maybe not increase, but I rephrase it. Sorry, I apologize for my English. That's not my first language.
That's okay.
I know that the T cell, T cell, do I say correctly, are very important in autoimmune diseases.
Yeah, T lymphocytes. Very much.
Yeah. So the number of it and they would tell you how your body is responding, if you would be tested for that. And based on that, then you can do something about it with supplements. I remember once, I believe it was a German immunologist, he said he was giving through infusion, but not pills, so a high quantity, omega-3.
Yeah.
Have you heard about this?
Yeah. No, there are different process. I don't know the scientific validity of it. I will have to look into that. But I heard several process. But basically, put it like this. I'm going to suggest a person, just research him. He has a lot to contribute in this. His name is Leroy Hood. Okay, he is a biotech person. He has found a lot of biotech companies that were working for the proactive wellness. Okay, what he does is he himself takes like some 80 some supplements by noon every day, and he's 84 now, but he's still very active in all the boards and all of that. So his argument is that I will check my blood so very often, and I will discover not only the deficient essentials that we need, but also toxins, right? That's another thing. So, Lou, I think you will be better served by pursuing this line of thinking and checking your blood. And first of all, check for all the nutrients, whether they are there or not. And if they are not there, then actually supplement should come from the diet, because our diet is so depleted. Now we have to supplement with real supplements, so I don't mind giving to vitamins to somebody who is vitamin deficient, but sometimes they are not going out in the sun and they are not able to move and all that. Then I would definitely give them vitamin D. I suppose somebody is vitamin B12 deficiency, then I will give them. So there are so many things that we can replace, and the supplements are going to be definitely good, especially when you are all the life you are eating processed food and you don't have any vitamin checks or supplemental check and all that. So that is something that you should consult endocrinologist and then get all things checked, and then you can replace even some hormones have some place. But even though I'm very slow on that, I usually allow people to develop vitamin supplements and hormones naturally. Some of the practices of ancients are very good for that, because they are exposed to the sun, they walk, and they sit on the hard surfaces. All those things naturally help them. But I would recommend look up Leroy Hood, read all about what he was doing and what are the recommendations he makes on that part. It's very important for the autoimmune people, because they could be more deficient than the ordinary people, because your immunity acting against you, that way it will deplete your natural fighters, right? So that you want to take extra caution about them, and then add more army to your depleting army. Yeah, do that. Leroy Hood is a good source for that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rao.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. So I have a meeting coming up by 9 o'clock. I have to get ready for that. I thank you everybody for joining me, Joyce and Chris and Divakaran and other people who joined here. Lou, you can reach me if you really want any specific suggestions about autoimmune. Just come to, just reach me, and then I will be able to talk to you. Maybe we'll come up with some specific suggestions for you. Okay. Okay, I will see you tomorrow again. Okay, bye-bye.